I'm Dutch, and let's react to the Americans. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Johan, and I'm a typical Dutchman. And if you're planning to come over to Europe for your holidays or for your vacation, for permanently living, or you're wondering why is everything in America so expensive in comparison with Europe, then you are right at this channel, because in this channel we take a look at the differences between the cost of life and living in the US versus the cost of life and living in Europe, or specifically in the Netherlands. And for today we're going to take a look at a video from David Wen, where he's discussing Dutch versus the US taxes, the truth. And I'm going to start with a subscribe and a like, and let's take a look what the truth is about the taxes of US versus Dutch, and if he's really telling the truth. Let's take a look.
What if I told you the 50% Dutch tax rate is actually a myth, but it's actually 18%?
Okay. It's not 50%, I know, but I also know that it's not 18%. But okay, let's see how he comes up with this number.
Coming from the US, one of my biggest concerns living in the Netherlands was lower salaries and higher taxes. In the Netherlands, it's 50%, but it's not really true. And I'm here to tell you the truth. I used to work in a Big 4 accounting firm, so I crunched some numbers for you. And now that I work in human resources, there's another interesting cultural phenomena that I've discovered that's related to how big Dutch taxes are. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "No, I don't want the promotion. I have to pay higher taxes in exchange for more responsibility, more stress. I'm okay where I am."
Yeah, okay. If he's talking about the Dutchman over Dutch people, yes. Some of them, most of them, I will say, will answer that question with, no. I'm fine where I am. If I get more paid, I have to pay more taxes. And yeah, he's right.
What? Coming from the US, this was unheard of. But later on, I understood why. And lastly, as an American who has lived, studied, worked, and gotten laid off in the Netherlands, I can now see why
He has been laid off in the Netherlands. Okay.
taxes can be so big. So in this video, let me clear a few things up. And let me argue that Dutch taxes can be high, but not as high as one may think. The Dutch tax system promotes being average. And Dutch taxes, while they can be high, they contribute to a high quality of life. Now, keep in mind, while there are many taxes in the
Yeah, the big blue envelope of the tax authorities, yeah.
country, I'm going to focus on two: income taxes and the Dutch wealth tax. And I'm also coming with an American lens. So let me quote Ben Franklin, who once said, "Nothing is certain but death and taxes." Dutch taxes can be high, but they're not as high as one may think. But first, what do we mean by high? High is subjective. So let's take a look at some of the highest income tax rates in Europe to see what high actually means.
In Europe, the average top personal tax rate is 43%. Denmark, France, and Austria have the highest top rates around
Wow. On their income tax.
55%. And the Netherlands, it's up there too with a top rate of 49.5%. And for comparison purposes, the US federal and state average top rate is around 42%.
But most people will never pay this 50%. Let me explain. In the Netherlands, income is taxed at a different rate based on different income levels.
Yeah, he's right. And I guess you don't have this in the United States. That's what I'm wondering of. Will it? Yeah, but he will explain it. Yeah.
And you only get taxed 50% once you reach 77,000 euros. But the thing is, most Dutch people will make anywhere between 40 and 45,000 euros per year. Meaning, most people will never even see this 50% tax rate. And the income tax rate we should all care about is the effective or real tax rate. It's what we actually pay in taxes in the end. Oh yeah, one more thing. The government gives us tax credits which lower our tax bill. Think of it.
Wait.
Yeah, one more thing. The government gives us
Tax credits. Labor tax. Source, I'm expat. Yeah, okay. I've never seen this schedule, but I was talking about it because if you earn more than 76,000 euros plus, then you have to pay tax. Above this, if you earn 80,000, for example, then you only pay for the last four, in this case, 3.2 thousand euros, those 50%. So it's only up to, and then, yeah.
tax credits which lower our tax bill. Think of it like a gift from the government for paying your taxes. So when you calculate your real taxes after deducting these credits, the real Dutch tax rate actually looks something like this.
What we can see is that the average Dutch person making around 40k actually pays a real tax rate of around 17%. And it's only after 100k where the real tax rate starts going up from 40%, but only 5% of the Dutch population makes over 100k. And I was curious, since I'm from California, known for having the highest state income taxes in the US, how does it compare? What's interesting is that at lower salaries, the real tax rate in California is higher. The average salary in California is around $75,000 with a real tax rate of around 25-26%. In California, you only hit a 40% real tax rate once you make $300,000, which is possible because salaries are higher. So let's look at a realistic example. For the average person, you actually pay more in taxes in California. Now, for high-paying professions, not only do you earn more in California, but you get taxed less compared to the Netherlands.
In fact, the Tax Foundation found out that the average effective tax rate in the Netherlands is around 18%. We can compare this to Denmark, who holds the title for the highest tax rates in Europe at 56%. But actually, in Denmark, most Danes actually pay 50% in taxes. But in many other European countries known for its high income taxes, Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, most people end up only paying around 20 to 30% in taxes, not 50%. You would need to be a millionaire to pay 50% in taxes, so myth debunked. In the Netherlands, most people don't pay anywhere near 50% in taxes. The average person pays around 18%. But wait, there's more. The Dutch wealth tax. If you're rich, run away. The Netherlands wants your money. Every year, the government taxes your
Yeah, you go over to Monaco.
worldwide assets. This includes your bank savings, checkings, stocks, shares, bonds, crypto, post-tax retirement accounts, cash, rental property, second homes. And the government taxes these assets based on a theoretical rate, which has caused controversy because it's not a
Now on box 3, wealth tax regime. Also contrary to EU law because flat rate returns still in use. So where box 3 regime was contrary to EU because of a flat rate, returns were still in use.
real rate. Now, calculating the wealth tax is complicated, but let's take a look at a quick example.
If I have 150,000 euros in a bank, no investments, no debt, then I would need to pay around 500 euros in box 3 wealth tax. Now, if I was financially smart, I wouldn't just leave all that money in my bank account, which is earning 0% interest. So let's say next year I keep 50k in my bank account, but I invest 100,000 euros. Then I'd have to pay around 1,500 euros in the Dutch wealth tax. Now, let's assume the following year, my crypto investments go crazy and my investment account now becomes 500,000 euros. Then I'd have to pay 10,000 euros in wealth tax.
Coming from the US where there isn't a direct wealth tax,
Yeah, there isn't any direct wealth tax. That should have been. That's the crazy part about the US is that very rich people like Trump and Musk, etc., have tricks to not pay tax and now even pay less tax with the new bill because you don't have something like a wealth tax.
I wasn't and I'm still not used to this wealth tax. Because in the US, we're not taxed on our savings and our investments are only taxed when we sell them at the end. But the point is, in the Netherlands, the government taxes your worldwide assets every year. And if you do have a lot of assets, be prepared to pay a lot every year in a Dutch wealth tax.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, I 100% know I'm going to get comments about a very sensitive Dutch income tax topic, the 30% ruling. In order to attract highly skilled migrants for specialized jobs, there's a tax benefit that gives these workers 30% of their salary to be tax-free. Now, in 2022,
for students, 20%. It's a lot of discussion over here in the Netherlands about that.
there were around 100,000 people who had this benefit, or around 0.6% of the population. It's mainly for foreigners, but it's also available to Dutch people who have been abroad but decide to come back. I'm not going to go into whether it's good or bad, but it's caused a lot of controversy and even hate. And hopefully I've convinced you that Dutch taxes can be high, but not as high as most think. Dutch taxes promote being average. I remember my first year working in the Netherlands and I was talking to a Dutch guy about cultural differences. He told me that Dutch people don't want to be as ambitious as Americans. He then told me that a lot of Dutch people don't want to climb the corporate ladder after a certain level. There's no financial incentive. I didn't really understand. And then he started talking to me about Dutch taxes.
Yeah, it's not only because Dutch taxes, we are more content if what we have, we can, if we can live from what we have, we are content. And if we want to have more responsibility, of course, there are always people in the business that are competitive and want to try to get at the highest possible position. They are, and good that they are, but a lot of people, if they have a job and they can pay the daily costs and can pay the taxes, of course, they are content. They work from, for example, from 9 to 5, and that's it. And then they go home and enjoy the family, enjoy their spare time, the free time, and do things with friends, and go to the fitness club or join a glass of beer at the pub. Yeah.
He told me that a lot of people do want to get promoted, but only up to a certain level where it's enough. For example, he makes a good salary, but he told me that he's turned down several promotions because he said it wasn't worth it. You get taxed more, and the extra money you get isn't enough for the extra responsibility and stress. And then I started working in HR, and I would hear the same story. People saying no to promotions. You get taxed more, and the extra money you get isn't enough for the extra responsibility and stress. And I just found this so interesting. Many people are okay staying where they are. For example, this is a very common conversation. A senior specialist makes around 75,000 a year. His manager is getting promoted, so senior leaders want him to be promoted to the manager. And the manager's salary is around 90K. Now, the extra 15K in salary, that's mostly taxed at 50%. So you
Oh, you're right. It's mostly taxed at 50%. Yeah.
get around 6.5K more after taxes, which is an extra 500 euros per month or an extra 25 euros per working day. But then he now has to manage a team, more meetings, more responsibility. Is 25 euros extra per day worth it? So for many, there's not a huge financial incentive to continue climbing the ladder after a certain point. But from a cultural perspective, things are different too. American culture is about achieving more, making more. Dutch culture is more about staying normal, average, not standing out. I mean, doe normaal or just be normal is...
Ja. Doe normaal, dan ben je al gek genoeg.
kind of like the country's favorite saying. And the Dutch tax system seems to support this mentality too. But it's fine for the normal Dutch person. You don't need to be a millionaire. You can be average and still live a great life. Because the Netherlands is one of the happiest countries in the world with one of the highest qualities of life. And a big part of it is due to Dutch taxes. Dutch taxes can be high, but they contribute to a high quality of life.
Yeah, I was I was waiting for the point that he explains where you pay a lot of taxes, but what you get in return for those taxes is also a lot.
I had no idea what a social safety net was before coming to the Netherlands. Now, in the US, there aren't many social safety nets, so we have to make more money to save for retirement, for emergencies, and you hope to find a company
And for your health bills.
with a good healthcare plan. But in the Netherlands, I do see where my taxes go. It's used to pay for things like social services, education, healthcare, infrastructure, and more. Now, there's a lot, but let me share and talk about a few that I've experienced myself. Healthcare.
Yeah, I want to go back to budget 2025 budget. Social affairs and employment 114, public health and welfare and sports, education, municipal funds, national debt, justice and security, paid by, of course, the fines that we have in infrastructure, and water management. Infrastructure is paid also by a separate tax that you get when you're driving a car and using the infrastructure. Yeah.
Services, education, healthcare, infrastructure, and more. Now, there's a lot, but let me share and talk about a few that I've experienced myself. Healthcare is universal and affordable. Almost 100% of the population has health insurance. Most pay around 160 euros a month with a 385 euro deductible. And if you're unemployed or low income, the government gives you money to pay for health insurance.
Yeah, healthcare allowance. It's the right name in English. Healthcare allowance.
For example, when I was studying in the Netherlands, I had a part-time job making minimum wage, but I received every month money from the government, around 100 euros, to pay for my health insurance. And as someone who got laid off
because health insurance is required by law. Everyone needs to have a health insurance.
last year, I just continued paying 170, 80 euros for my health insurance. Now in the US, because healthcare is usually tied to the company, if you get laid off, paying for healthcare can be really expensive. Thank you, Dutch taxes. And speaking of education, as a non-EU student, I did pay higher study fees, so it wasn't entirely
Yeah, it's not within the Schengen area, not within the EU area, and then you have to pay more.
subsidized. But if you're an EU student, your education is subsidized. EU students pay around 2,500 euros in tuition per year, or around 10,000 euros for a 4-year degree. In the US, we pay anywhere between 10,000 to 30,000 per year in tuition, which comes out to around 40,000 to 120,000 for a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
That's expensive. Many students also get healthcare allowance, rent allowance, and they get to travel around the country for free on public transport. Thanks.
Yeah. What he doesn't mention, he probably doesn't know, but those tuition, if you are successful with within 10 years and you get your degree, then it's a gift. So even then, it's anything you pay extra is be gifted. The real price is, of course, about 2,400, 24 nowadays. Yeah, 2,500 a year. But everything you take on it, a loan, a student loan, will be gifted to you if you succeed in your education and have your degree. So you don't need to pay it back.
To Dutch taxes. And let's not forget about the infrastructure.
It's good.
Transport. Thanks to Dutch taxes. And let's not.
Yeah, this is the real difference between Belgium and the Netherlands. Yeah.
forget about the infrastructure, the cycling infrastructure. It's connected to public transport. For example, 50% of all public transport trips start or end with a bike. The infrastructure makes getting around really easy. And I cycle every day, which is good for my well-being and also good for the environment. There are other benefits as well. For example, when I got laid off, I received 5 months of unemployment pay because I worked 5 years.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. He worked 5 years, so he get 5 year. How does he call it?
Got laid off. I received 5 months of unemployment pay
Unemployment pay. Yeah.
because I worked 5 years. I know colleagues and other people who worked for 10, 15 years and they got 10 to 15 months of unemployment. Now, these are just some of the social benefits that I've received or experienced. I'm sure there are plenty more, so if you have a story to share, please leave them in the comments below. Now, at the beginning, I was actually scared of 50% Dutch taxes. But the truth is, most people pay around 18% in income taxes. But if you're someone who is ambitious or has wealth, the Dutch tax system might not be for you. And while it may sound that I love taxes, I'm still scared of those blue envelopes. But
Yeah, and he didn't talk, of course.
or has wealth, the Dutch tax system might not be for you. And while it may sound that I love taxes, I'm still
The VIT is one of the taxes you pay without knowing that you do. So that's one. And property tax is only when you actually own a home. So yeah, there are more taxes, but
still scared of those blue envelopes. But I do see where my taxes go. And a big indirect benefit of Dutch taxes is I have less anxiety. I don't have to worry about healthcare.
and you don't pay taxes like you do in the United States, I believe, every month or so. It's tax payday or so. It's just once a year. You pay your taxes, and if you get a paper version, but most of people doing it digital. If you do the digital version, then everything is already, as far as the tax company knows, as the government knows, already pre-filled with the right amount of what you have earned, what you have paid, etc., etc. All you have to do is check if the numbers are correct, and if the numbers are correct, then you can add your deductibles and say save, send, and done. So it's, if I do my taxes once a year, and that's around March, April, you need to do of the year before. I'm usually working on my taxes about maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours a year for my taxes, and I'm done. That's all you need to do.
I don't have to worry about saving hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for my kids' education. And I don't always need to worry about climbing the ladder or making more. And the nice thing is, most people live a high quality of life in the Netherlands. Imagine that. You can be average, but live an above average life.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you like access to more finance,
He's talking about the right stuff. It's good to hear the perspective of United States, coming from the United States, living in the Netherlands, talking about the taxes. It's not all the taxes, but the tax rate is there, but what you get back in return of what you get in return for the taxes that you pay are massive. So if you compare those numbers with the actual numbers you pay, you will see that you even be less than 18% of your annual tax that you get in return for a lot of stuff. And if you find an accountant over here in the Netherlands, well, they will help you to fine-tune some things, and then you will pay even less than those 18%. But don't be afraid for the high tax if you're coming over to the Netherlands or if you're coming over to Europe in general, if you want to live here and leave the United States. You will be surprised, like he is, about how good the quality of life is here in Europe or in the Netherlands comparing to the US, and comparing that what you have to pay in taxes and what you get from the government for you or for your kids, because you also get subsidized, your kids get subsidized too until they're the age of 16. So what you get in return for paying that, all that taxes, is good. If you like the video and if you like the information, then press like. If you want to see more of my videos, then this is a good starting point. And please subscribe to the channel. That would mean the world to me, because then we get more viewers to the channel and the algorithm knows what to do. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.